I spent 12 long years in an agency before I decided that I need to venture out something on my own. Most of the agency model is all about retainership. I went the opposite of it. I said no, I don't want retainers. Analytical approach will make marketing efficient but forgetful. Creative approach will make the brand memorable but not sustainable. Most agencies also work with multiple domains, multiple category. There is whole niche specialization as a concept. It's still not very relevant or popular in the advertising world.
What's your advice to an agency founder? Pick the niche which is differentiating, but maybe 8, 9, 10 months down the line, they've gotten a referral for something very different, but they like you. So should we take up such projects or not? Hey there, welcome to Marketing Mavericks with Indiefolio. Today we have Anand Sankara Narayanan, who is the CMO of Finance House Group. Anand's got a very interesting career spanning over a decade, where he started off as a designer when it came to his education, then did MBA, worked with a lot of brands as an agency employee and then an agency entrepreneur, before moving into his current role of a CMO in a different country. We unpack all of this and extract a lot of insights and advice for young marketers. Thanks a lot for your time, Anand, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Kavan. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
You've had an incredible career where you've built your own company, you worked on the service side, the brand side, and even moved cities and countries rather, sorry. So we'll get into all of that. But I want to, take you back to your school and college, right? I think it was University of Madras.
Yeah.
And I think you did visual communication, which is very interesting because, I'm a designer, I'm an animator.
Okay.
So I'd love to know, where is it that the creative bug caught you? And when did you choose marketing as a career?
Okay. Interesting. So my story is very different. Like you've said, during my schooling days, I come from a small town boy. Okay. Before I became a Chennaiite, I obviously lived in a tier 2 town in Tamil Nadu. Okay. And obviously I went through the whole drilling of the school, and your higher secondary is all about physics, maths, chemistry, and all of that. And I wanted to run far away from that world, to be honest. Okay. And somehow during our school days, advertising caught my attention. Right. I used to, back in the days, it's all programmed content, right? You cannot watch on demand whatever that you need. You have to time your schedule to television schedule to go and watch something. That's how things were back in the days. Now it seems very different, right? So I used to wait for advertising breaks, to come and see how they kind of communicate a story in 30 seconds or 1 minute and convince you that that's the best product available to buy and stuff like that. That caught my attention, right? Then I started researching about, is there a kind of a graduation or study that's available that will help me get into that domain or field? Again, back in those days, there was lack of internet connectivity, a lack of communication, like how it was like today in our fingertips with ChatGPT is going to tell you everything about a rocket scientist is doing in like SpaceX to an AI engineer working in Meta. We know about the drill, what happens. But back in the days, we don't have that, right? But somehow I was fixated that I need to go into a non-conventional career. Then I kind of shifted to Chennai in search of this, and then I discovered there is something called visual communication, and that caught my attention to get into it. And I was fixated. I don't want to get into engineering, medicine, or any usual beaten down path of Indian parents that will push their kids into. So that's how I got into the world of visual communication and creativity. And then from there, life completely changed. And then after completing my graduation, I realized that just visual communication is not going to be helpful in making me employable or industry ready. So I need to equip myself something more. So then I got into the world of management, and then I studied my MBA marketing after I completed my visual communication. Again, it's a very, I would say back in the days, people consider it as a weird combination because one is like on creative subject, other one is like very management, different domains altogether, right? So but somehow it clicked for me, and it helped me in understanding how creativity works and helped me in understanding how marketing works. And that made a very unique it gave me a unique strength to start my career in my life.
Making a career in marketing or advertising is starting up your own.
Hmm.
And you've also, kind of ventured into that from a consultant to, an agency owner. A lot of people today look at that very seriously, even at the earlier stages of their life, because it's genuinely easier now to set up a company and, do various things to get clientele. Can you tell me a little bit about your story? Why did you decide to start, your own agency, and what's your recommendation if anybody's curious about it? What should be the reason I should start off an agency, and what's the right path for
Okay.
me to make one?
Okay. So yeah, I spent 12 long years in an agency before I decided that I need to venture out something on my own. And even when I started on my own, having worked for a long time in an agency gave me a lot of industry perspective on what works and what doesn't work in an agency ecosystem and between client and agency relationship transaction,
Hmm.
right? So when I moved out and started something, I was very clear that I don't want to be a typical agency. Okay. Most agencies also work with multiple domains, multiple category. There is whole niche specialization as a concept is not still not very relevant or popular in the advertising world. They try to take up all sort of clients, all sort of industries, and it's a multidisciplinary or multi industry campaign and approach and marketing that they do. Right? There is no right or wrong in it, but I chose to be niche in one particular industry and market, and I want to do the opposite of what any agency does. That's been my
Hmm.
defining differentiation when I started, right? Agencies typically go behind retainers because it's a stable income. You have fixed cost that's going to incur every month. And for that, you need to have fixed income. So most of the agency model is all about retainership, retainership, and retainership. That's going to give them defined 1 year cash flow that is already set, right? I
Right.
went the opposite of it. I said, like, no, I don't want retainers. I'll work on turnkey projects. That's one. And two, we specialized on one core industry and one core part of brand building. Right? I focused on brand building and brand positioning, and not typical communication or advertising or running performance marketing campaigns or creating social media posts. None of those. I set out clearly on I want to define the foundation of the brand before the communication on different channels happen. Because unless it is defined, then all your efforts on different channels are very fragmented. It is not unified. If you don't know what your brand purpose, what does brand stand for, then it is left to the creative person's creativity to run a campaign. Then it became very isolated. That's
Hmm.
another
Hmm.
defining differentiation that I consciously set behind, right? And third, industry wise, definitely I wanted to focus on global market and not just restricted to India. India was not at all a focus market at that time. And within the global markets, I wanted to focus on B2B tech, right? Most B2B companies were still not realizing the power of brand building, defining the brand before they start going on communication and advertising, right? It's a
Right.
hard truth. B2B marketing is all about rational communication, right? Typical B2B companies ads that you go and see, it's all about data based headlines. Like 82% of the target audience feels that this product solves a problem and stuff like that. It's very rational, although we know that B2B is predominantly rational decision making. That's at the end stage, but that's not at the beginning stage. At the beginning stage,
Right.
if you want your brand to be considered in the industry, it's not just about the data that is going to make them memorable. Like I said,
Yeah.
analytical approach will make marketing efficient but forgetful, right?
Hmm.
Creative approach will make the brand memorable but not sustainable, right? So you
Right.
got to have an entry through creativity and sustain
Right.
through analytical fact based evidence when it comes to conversion. That's the last part of the funnel, conversion. The first part of the funnel, believability, relatability, right? So
Right.
that is why I felt there was a huge gap in the B2B tech space, and I focused on starting that one. So those are my core reasons that I wanted to start something and bring the B2C best practices into the
Hmm.
B2B world. That
Hmm.
was a conscious decision taken on industry and the approach and the financial models and all of those.
One argument against
Yeah, yeah,
focus is when you're starting a company, you're basically trying to get revenue to keep the company alive.
yes,
As a founder, that's at the first principle or fundamental
yes,
job to keep the light on.
yes,
Often, when you pick a niche
yes,
and you start spreading the word, you often get referrals of people who are not part of that niche.
yes.
They maybe just need help somewhere
Mm,
there. And it's very hard to say no to that.
mm, mm.
Could you tell me a little bit more about situations like that? Like, what's your advice to an agency founder
Yeah.
who's picked a
Mm,
niche which is differentiating,
yes.
but maybe 8, 9, 10 months down the line, they've gotten a
Mm,
referral for something very
mm,
different, but they like you.
mm,
It's from a client you really
mm.
enjoy, and they're like, "Karke do mere
Okay.
liye." So, should we take up such projects or not?
Okay. So yeah, there is always this conundrum, right? I'm sticking to niche, but I need revenue, which is also important, right? That needs to keep my business going. Right? It's it also boils down to how you market yourself as an agency. Okay, if you need cash flows that are required to sustain an agency, obviously you have to take up some projects. It's not about sticking to niche, but you don't have to market your product in the portfolio. That's the difference, right?
Mm,
You have to
mm,
take up for the fundamental running the show requirements. But for
mm.
marketing your agency, you should not be, again, they mixing up both. One, how you would like to project yourself in the industry, right? And two, what are the things that you need to do to run the show at the back end, behind the scenes, right? But behind the scenes, what you're doing should not come into the front of how you advertise your agency. That's a problem.
Right,
And especially in the early days, these are critical. You cannot, it's like you cannot starve yourself to death and saying that I only take up this particular industry because that is what I've defined for. That is what you put up on the outside, honestly, right? If you mix both, that's where the problem comes. Separate both,
mm,
right? At least in the early stage of 4 years, 5 years, until your foundational survival crisis gets over, you got to separate the two and stick to what you want to be known for. But you got to take up some projects at the back end, do it just to keep the cash registers going.
right,
That's how
right,
early stage, yeah, you cannot say, you cannot afford to say no. But sticking to a niche is going to be extremely beneficial in the long run. Long run, I would say, even like between 5 to 10 years, you will be one of the defining force in the category. That they cannot,
right,
any company in the industry cannot think of anybody else. They would rather choose
right.
the best than go with a generalist. It's like a
Correct,
typical, take even doctor scenario, right? A cardiologist, right? A cardiologist is so specialized, right? And you go to him, you're willing to pay a premium because you know that if you have a problem with your heart, you better go to a specialist than a generalist just to save cost. Very,
correct.
very similar to that. But a cardiologist would have also started his career as a generalist, a general medical practitioner, and then got himself qualified to a niche particular specialization. Similar analogy.
But then can you tell me how do you upskill yourself, right? Do you do a course? Do you just go out there in the market and then learn on the experience? My I'll tell you where I'm coming from. A lot of people hearing this would be wondering, I spent let's say 7, 8 years in the advertising side. There's also somebody out there who spent 7, 8 years as a brand manager.
Yes.
And maybe as a recruiter, I'll have to pick between the two.
Yes.
Why would they pick an advertising guy over somebody who's been in marketing for 6 years?
Yes.
So could you kind of try and help me understand how to compete with brand managers?
Yes. Yeah, see, today there are dime a dozen courses available online. In fact, you don't even have to subscribe to a course. The resources are just there online. Just
Right.
go and read about it. You know what it is, right? I can tell you from my experience, what I did was I absorbed a lot of marketing wisdom from podcasts. Right, I've
Mhm.
listened to a lot of podcasts from different CMOs because today you have that knowledge. 20 years back, this never existed. Right, you got to listen to. You can today listen to how a chief marketing officer of PepsiCo on his decision making style and his approach, or say General Electric or a Google's marketing head, Today everybody's thinking and the approach is available online. When you go and study their minds and how they approach different challenges and turn them into an opportunity, that will give you a lot of knowledge, to understand how that works. And the second thing,
Mm.
obviously, you got to hang out with people who are in that place, right? If you are in an agency side and you want to shift to the client side, if your network is still on the agency ecosystem, that's not going to be helpful, right? Then you have to hang out with a lot of brand managers and marketers to understand their life, right? How is their day in the life of a brand manager? What kind of challenges that they go through, and what kind of work that they execute, and what kind of way forward that they plan for a particular brand, for a particular industry, for 1 year, for 3 years, for 5 years, right? How do they do their positioning sitting on the corporate side in compared to working on a
Right.
positioning from the agency side? All of these
Correct.
give you completely different perspective and new set of wisdom to absorb that will completely equip you. Then the moment you have all the knowledge, it's all about convincing whoever is interviewing you. When you put forth that wisdom, it becomes evident what
Correct.
a, a line of course that you have done on CV, it cannot tell you what you can actually convince whoever is recruiting you on the interview, real world problem and real world solutions that you can pick and cross pollinate. The beauty of marketing is also cross pollination. Take other
Mm.
industry who have gone through different problems or same set of problems, how they approached it. Can we take best
Right.
practices and try to see within this industry's context how it can be worked out, right? That is possible only in marketing. It may not be, I don't know, it may not be available in law of chemistry, law of physics and all of that, but beautifully works in the world of marketing.
I think it's very interesting strategy, right? Which I learned from you right now, that if you want to get a global role, work with global clients or global markets while in India, which will actually firstly make you understand how that whole thing works and convince somebody outside the country that yeah, you've kind of done the job, you understand the customer, the market, the brand,
Yes.
which I think is a very smart tactic, which a lot of listeners could actually employ. Um, I want to now jump into I think AI, which a lot of people you know uh, are thinking on right now, and I wanted to just ask your perspective on various aspects. Right. Uh, Today, what I see is happening is the craft, which is your hard work to understand how to make something, is going away,
Mm.
because you can prompt it out
Yes.
essentially. So if you're an idea person or a solutions oriented person, just prompt it and you don't need to learn the craft will be done. You just create solutions. So more than a T-shaped person, I think it's become a V-shaped
Ha.
person where everything converges
What?
into you, and then you can figure out what you want to do, which has really made people anxious and confused, because some people love the craft of being creative, some people love the craft of number crunching, some people love the craft of designing. Yeah, I know the colors and the palettes and the fonts like nobody else, and that's kind of going away in front of them. So if I want to be relevant as a marketer, I want to be relevant as a creative
Mm.
person, right? What areas do you think I should continue to double down on, and what areas do you feel that it's time to let go?
It's time to let go. Okay. Yes. So AI is a force multiplier, actually. And we are in an amazing era where we are witnessing this transformation, right? 10 years from now, this will become a status quo. It's just like normal. People who are entering the whole marketing industry, they start doing it from day one. It's one of their
Hmm.
prerequisites. But today what's happening is a transformation from traditional way of working to AI led force multiplied working, that is kind of happening now. So AI cannot replace the human intelligence 100%
Hmm.
yet, I would say, because we still don't know. Today, at least every day, some 10 different tools are that are getting dropped left, right, and center around the world, and it's difficult to even catch up with how many tools are there to track and implement and work. But obviously, it's a force for good, and it's a force of challenge. It challenges
Hmm.
humans' capabilities. It challenges humans' relevance in today's world. Obviously, what helps here is what it took a 10-member team or a 20-member army of team that is required to execute a work is now getting done with just couple of AI tools and subscriptions if you know what you want and what you need to do in marketing. That's what it is. Again,
Mm,
if you don't know the fundamentals of marketing, AI is not going to help you. AI
mm,
is like what goes in is going to come out, right?
right,
And uh, invariably, like I always worried that there's going to be a sea of sameness in marketing. Everybody is going to give the same prompt. ChatGPT or whoever or whichever AI tool they are using in content generation or image generation is going to give the same results, and there's going to be a sea of sameness that's going to establish very soon,
right.
right? Uh, 5 years back or like around that time, the photography got redefined when Instagram became very popular, right?
Mm,
And the whole Instagram aesthetics became prevalent in all photography, and almost everybody followed it, and the whole differentiation of brand completely got blurred. And the same
mm,
scenario is going to happen with AI, because every headline is going to be almost the same, every content communication is going to be almost the same, an image is going to be almost the same. Unless you know clearly on what differentiates your brand from the others, unless you don't know the foundation, you cannot extract the best from AI that is going to be unique for your case. So you still have
mm,
to double down on not just on using AI tools, but understanding the fundamentals of marketing and brand building. You need to double down
right.
more on that. The more you understand, the best you can extract from different AI tools. AI tool is like like I said, is like your order taker. Literally your order taker.
Right.
You tell what exactly you want. Instead of 10 people spending 3 days to craft one particular work, AI is going to give it to you in half an hour or 1 hour. That's it,
Right.
right? That is on the creative part of AI. And again, today, mostly marketing is focusing only on creative part of AI. What's the
Yeah.
most underused, which people are not yet seriously looking at it, is the insights or the analytical part of the AI, which is the decision
Correct.
intelligence, right? You have to go through reams and reams of data to come and make some sense of what is okay, what is not okay, how to go down on the next campaign, which segment you need to target more, and all of that. Here AI is going to be very helpful in speed and efficiency and accuracy of decoding all your insights and data, like say mining the NPS data, right? Net
Mm,
promoter score data, how can you interpret it, and what kind of trends
right.
that you can predict, and can you predict
Sure.
churn by analyzing your last 1 year or 2 years of NPS data or CSAT score? Can you predict churn
Right.
and avoid churn? Then if you have this decision come in hand, way ahead of the churn that is going to happen, you know what
Yeah.
interventions you need to do from marketing to stop the churn and stop the leakage in revenue, right?
Mm,
And what are all the cultural signals that AI can choose or pick up from the social chatter that happens online about your brand? Again, very, very less used. So today, AI is used for trivial things of say automation and publishing all the content on different platforms, or content creation or generation. That's for doing it, but this whole insights and analytics part is still very overlooked part that's going to make a huge difference when you use them. So double down on the foundation, and then use AI to enhance the speed and efficiency of the marketing work that you're doing. What marketers took 10 years to achieve for a brand, today marketers with AI tools can achieve it in less than 2 years. That's the speed in which the evolution is happening.
absolutely. Um, I feel, AI is like a really, really good intern at the best right now, where very enthusiastic, works very hard, always trying new things, but doesn't have context.
Yes,
And I think
exactly.
all the craft knowledge you've built up and will build up will help you get more context.
Yes,
I think all the biggest billion-dollar rappers today are context rappers. They just know what to ask and how to interpret it and what to say. So, completely second, everything you mentioned about that.
yes.
Um, this, brings me to our last question now, and we're almost at time. And I think, thank you so much for, I think, sharing so many insights, especially on a Saturday. And I know you've spoken already about a bunch of this, but as a parting thought, if I am a young marketer
Mm-hmm.
and I want to become a CMO one day,
Mm.
What should I focus on in the next 1 year? Could you kind of unpack that?
Next 1 year. Okay. See, more than focusing on one particular area, most emerging marketers or like aspiring marketers should have one mindset approach, right? You got to do what others are not willing to do. Okay. My personal mantra, if I have to talk about from my own experience on this, is all about seeking discomfort. Okay. I will be the first person to take up something which others are not at all willing to or running away from a particular task, because you got to figure out things. When you do difficult things for the first time, obviously it's a painful experience. But the
Hmm.
learning that happens multiplies and compounds the knowledge you accumulate over a period of long time, right?
Right.
So focus on a lot of things. You got to understand, like I said, marketing is a multidisciplinary approach. Do not focus on just creativity or storytelling.
Hmm.
Understand
Hmm.
human psychology, understand
Hmm.
business, understand
Hmm.
business leaders and how they see marketing, like business
Right.
leaders who have been very successful in running their business and their views on marketing and what practices they implemented that helped their business thrive from the marketing's
Hmm.
perspective. I mean, it's
Right.
great to listen to people like, say, Simon Sinek on marketing. It's great to hear what Howard Schultz from Starbucks talks about, how he built this whole third place philosophy in building it. He's not from the marketing background. He's absolutely not.
Right.
But he imbibed all of this, did a lot of trial and error, and then built an empire today that we all can learn from. So
Hmm. Hmm.
today, there are so many examples, millions of examples that are available right in front of us. If all the budding marketers, aspiring marketers want to focus on, go and study how Starbucks early days are. Don't get fascinated by what they are today, what they did
Correct.
when at their early days. That will help in giving the knowledge that you seek, right? How are Nike's early days are, and how are some of the challenger brands today who are emerging, who are challenging the mighty brands like the Starbucks or the Nike or Adidas. What is it? Go and study about Hoka as a brand of sneakers. How are they challenging the status quo of Nike and Adidas today, right?
Right.
So if you try to learn from all of these brands, you have a compounded knowledge over the next 1 year that will equip you to
Hmm.
survive any situation, any industry, any market.
I think this is some profound advice. Thank you so much, for such a good conclusion to the podcast. I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people. And this brings us to the end of it. I hope you had a good time, Anand.
Yes, Kavan. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me for this podcast. I really enjoyed this conversation. And I really hope that this is going to be helpful for all the budding marketers and brand builders out there who are starting out. And it's a good platform that you are building on spreading this knowledge to all the people who need, this kind of wisdom that they need to hear from multiple industry stakeholders collectively who are sharing their own experience. That's going to help a whole lot of people.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people. For everybody who stuck along, thank you so much for tuning in. If you'd like to hear another marketing leader, please like, share, and subscribe. A new episode will come out very soon. Bye bye.
Thank you.